Hi, family. My heart is beating really fast as I begin to record this episode, and I'm going to make a conscious effort to speak slowly and to take deep breaths because I feel very passionate about this very thing. In fact, so passionate that I made sure I waited a day before expressing any personal feelings on what happened yesterday, which was the No King's Day protest across the United States. Numbers are still coming in. Projections are 10 to 12 million participated. Projections are that the King's attendance was at 10,000. I don't know. This is early, so we'll see. It's not what this is about anyway. What this is about is the protest that I attended was wonderful. And that is an odd word to use. I didn't want to go. I dreaded going. I'm old now and I'm tired. And it's hard to explain what it's like to have your rights just like stripped from you after you worked decades to get them. I guess probably just like with alcoholics or any other group like that, only women really truly get that, the depth of it. Anyhow, I couldn't stay home. I couldn't. I have a friend in Texas. Her name is Marie, and she's been hellfire and brimstone on advocacy work forever. I mean, she has pictures going way back, old hippie days. And anyway, she was going to be in a wheelchair and she's had surgery. So even with my aching bones and my absolute utter, I don't like to be in crowds now. I'm not sure I ever did, but I know I don't now. So I did not want to go, but I did go. I was compelled to go. I made my sign and I pulled out my t-shirt that I had made from the march in 2017 when I took my granddaughter and we stood in the very front row of the barricades there at the Capitol steps in Madison. The Wisconsin State Journal got a picture of the thousands and thousands of people in and around us, and it was such a proud moment, and I thought it was going to be my last one. So I pulled that shirt out, and I have a hat that I pulled out, and off I went. And I'll just want to tell you quickly a little mini story that came to mind. When I was in kindergarten, I don't have a lot of memories of my trauma-filled and unstable childhood. But what I do remember, one of the few things I do remember, is there was a little girl with a glass eye. I don't know why she had a glass eye, but she was in our class and she had a glass eye, and I remember being in the bathroom with her once and she was crying. We were the only ones in there, and I remember trying to comfort her. And then I remember being on, I don't know, I think they were made of stone steps. There were only a few of them. I do remember that. But I stood up on one of the stone steps, my hands on my hips, and announced to the playground, I don't know, it might have been after the bathroom, that anyone who made fun of this girl anymore was not going to be my friend. That stays with me because that's who I am. I mean, kindergarten, come on. Kindergarten, I was doing that. I am much more militant in my style than most, and it is a good thing that I have most to keep me in check. One of the things that I do is not to be in crowds or not to be under highly stressful conditions. And of course, we didn't know. Everybody hoped and thought it would go well, but who knows? Who would know in this world that we live in? And there happened to be the Circus World Parade was also yesterday, and it is a massive parade in Wisconsin. And I remember hearing, I don't know what happened yesterday, but I remember there was one of the last times I attended, there were over 100,000 attendees. So I'm like, oh, mother of God, you know? So I went down, took the country road, and thankfully we all stood on that side of town. So at the end of town, as much of the traffic would go, it's a major thoroughfare. When they entered or left, we all gathered. And when I got there, there were, I don't know, 10, maybe 15. I brought out my stuff and just made a little chit chat and became a little more comfortable. And there really wasn't a whole lot of organization involved. I asked someone, well, what about those of us who can't walk? Are they going to walk, or are we going to march with these signs? Because I can't do that with my hip, which is really hard to have to say, but it's true. She said, oh, we'll set you up right on the corner there. I'm like, awesome. I took my chair and my sign and my Gatorade and iced coffee and my camera, backpack, set it all over there. And these two lovely older women, one with a walker and the other one coming with her, came, and I said, would you like my chair? And she sat down and we negotiated an agreement that worked out very well. That then freed me up. Since she would watch my stuff, I could take my camera and go take pictures. And thus I found myself across the street away from all of the protesters. And the permit was for 12:30. And they made absolutely certain no one went on any ground before that. I mean, everything was done as it was supposed to be done. So they all started lining up, and they just kept coming and coming. At first I thought, well, it's going to be okay, but it's not going to be really big, you know. But then they just kept coming with all these amazing signs. And there was this wonderful energy that has been missing from so much of our lives. This positive, upbeat, happy, joyful energy. And so I started taking pictures and walking up and down the sidewalk. My body is speaking to me today. That's why I'm dressed the way I am. I am in what I refer to as people before me referred to as a house bra. My boobs are singing down to my belly button, and I do not care. My body hurts today. So what you see is what you get. I did throw on some mascara and liner. Where was I? Anyway, they were all lined up, and it was so joyful. And I'm on the opposite corner, right? And I'm standing there when I turned around, and I saw there were a very small group down on the corner, a block away. They were actually in the parking lot of the church that my bonus son attends. And I knew at once who these people were. I just knew. I wasn't up close and personal. I didn't see any of their faces with any detail, but I knew who they were. Some of them began looking at me as well. I'm pretty sure they probably knew who I was too. It took them a little while, and I give them kudos, because it takes courage to walk up into a group that is outnumbering you by 30 or 40 times minimum. And I did briefly think how different it would be if it was the opposite situation, if it was the MAGA people out there. It wouldn't have been anything like that, and I knew that to be true. Anyone with common sense does. I'm okay with counter-protesters doing the peaceful thing, But then I saw their signs. And I also knew they were going to have those signs. And I think two of them said, Christ is King. One of them said, repent, something like before it's too late, or something to that effect. And the ire started just building up in me. I can feel it right now. And I know where it comes from. I know where it comes from. And they walked up the street, and I stood there on the corner and just watched. And so there was no one on this other side, right? They were now on the opposing side of the street. So everyone for No King's Day is on one side. And then there are these 8 people. These people walked up and they stood quietly and they held their signs up, facing everyone else across the street. And I stood there for several minutes or more, just quizzically looking at them. And finally, I just thought, I cannot let this opportunity pass me by. So I walked up, and the guy that I just knew would be the one in charge, he had on a baseball cap, something to the effect of, God, let me die before I'm a Democrat, or something to that effect. And then he had a guy with him. And they started walking toward me. It was almost as if they were going to keep some space between me and these other folks. And I said, listen, I don't want to argue with you. I just have a question. I have a sincere and authentic question. And he said, well, okay. And I said, all right, so I want you to explain to me why you standing on this side of the road and having signs that say Christ is King, how that makes these people on that side of the road your enemy. And he said, well, they're saying no kings. And I said to him, I know you know better than that. I know that you know that that is a red herring. That has nothing to do with it. I asked him why that was. Why did they have to be on opposing sides? And then I said to him, because you have a lot of people over there who are Christians. And do you know what he said to me without a breath in between? He said, well, they think they are. You see, this is the challenge with me, family. When someone is so arrogant, and that is just the best word I can think of. Oh, so you have the corner on the truth on who is a Christian, and you guys want to nationalize Christianity. And no, we don't. And I said, okay, so let me ask him a question. And I started to ask this other guy, and if it comes to me, I'll give you the question because it was a good one. But he didn't, this one with the hat, didn't let me even get halfway through the question and said, no, you're not going to ask him a question. And I said, what? Why? So he wouldn't let this guy talk. This man that I had asked the question of was in his late 50s, very quiet, stood next to the guy who said, yes, I'm in charge. Because I said, oh, you speak for all of them now, right? And he said, yes, I'm in charge. I said, why can't they speak for themselves? That's part of the problem here. You guys want to tell everyone else what to think. And he said, no. And he tells the guy to walk away. And the guy does it. He walked away, and I said, why can't he answer? And he goes, he was starting to get mad. And I said, no, he wasn't. He was very calm. So I won't, kill a dead horse. But my point is that is the point, is that he had assigned himself the head of this group. It was clear. And he said it. He was in charge. He told me he had training. He had training in protests. Oh, and oh my God, you guys, that's the other thing. I said to him, what is your intent? Why are you here? And he said, you don't know what's going to happen after dark. And I said to him, almost all these people are not going to be here after dark. So they were there to keep the peace. All 8 of these, 4 quite elderly people, I guess, to keep the peace. I don't know. That wasn't it. They had signs that clearly gave out their agenda. And I did tell him, I said, it had to take great courage for you guys to walk up here and to put those signs up when there are all those people on the other side. I said, but I don't agree with or understand the repent. So all these people are sinners because they want freedom. So needless to say, we did not solve anything because you cannot speak with these people about anything that requires critical thinking, because either those who lead them have told them not to speak or what to say, or I don't know if there's an or. It's just astonishing, you guys. I'm serious. It is totally baffling to me. I was never, until this guy came to power and just turned our country into a regime, I was never either party. I mean, I leaned more Democrat because Republicans, frankly, they're just, God love them, but they're judgmental and hypocritical. I was more Democratic leaning. I considered myself to be an independent. And then this guy came to power. And we all know, honestly, history will bear this out. I'll be long dead, but history will bear this out. He had 3 factions that helped him get power, one of whom made all the difference. He had the filthy rich, and then the aspiring to be filthy rich. Those people, their only currency is money. That's it. That's their first and primary. And they were always there. And then he had the right-wing religious, among whom, God love him, are my uncle and aunt, in their 80s, and he was a preacher, and I love him so much. But you cannot, that's where, religion comes in, and worst case scenario, we're demons that just don't understand and we're being prayed for and we need to be converted. That was the other thing, this guy, this one yesterday, I said to him, you want to nationalize Christianity? No, we don't. I said, okay, well then just your version of Christianity? Whose version? Well, then he didn't want to talk anymore. So that's the second faction. The right-wing religious fanatics who, they're going to save us whether we want to be saved or not. And we just don't know what's good for us. They honestly believe that. They honestly believe that we are just unbelievers and we don't see, there's a veil and we can't see. I know, I lived among these people. I know what they're like. And you cannot rationalize with them either. And they, too, have always been around. But it was that third faction. That was the one, he took his brand and he took his Peter Piper horn and he called them in and they came running from the hills. And the typical MAGA drives a pickup truck with big old tires, plays country music. He's a guy with not a lot of education, and a wife that counts on him for a lot. Most of them are short with little tiny penises. All of them have guns. A lot of guns. A lot of guns. And every single one of them sees themselves as a patriot. I have lived among these people too. They are exhausting. Because fact, rationalizing, intellect, those are all the enemy to them. They don't care about it. They don't want to hear about it. Jesus Christ himself could come down and tell them something and they would just not believe it. They would question whether he was Jesus Christ, because these people are cognitively dissonant. They find something they want to believe and they just believe it. The king said himself, it's on YouTube, go look at it. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and I wouldn't lose voters. That was the kind of person he was talking about. And these people, they have one goal. Their only goal is to own the libs at any cost. They're the ones who were at the insurrection. They're the ones who beat our police officers. They are the ones who spread their shit on our walls of the Capitol building. So this faction, most of them really never even cared about voting. They just didn't before. And then he called them in. He took their prejudices and fears and he built them up and created a raging fire. They're eating the cats and dogs. They're coming over the border by the millions and taking your jobs. They're raping your women. Oh God, I mean, what he didn't say. And then making fun of the disabled. I mean, come on, really? We all know that because we're living it. We've lived it. So those, whatever spin they put on it, those are the facts. So those three factions, I refer to them all cooperatively as the deliverance cult. Always have, almost since day one. They are the ones who got him there. They are the ones who put that king into place. There's one other group that's responsible, and those are the people who stayed home during this last election. Had they come out, this would not have happened either. So everybody's got enough blame to go around, and now we just got to figure out, how do we fix it? And it's always left to the people, isn't it? It always is. So this guy and his group, about, I don't know, halfway through, not even halfway through, other people had come. So there was the Democratic convention of some was meeting over at the Dells, I believe at Kalahari. 2 buses, school buses, pulled in and they all got out. Oh my gosh, the screams and the hollers. It was so awesome. So those people, when they joined, a bunch of them went on the other side, but a whole bunch stayed on the side of these other guys, although they stayed down the way a little. They certainly left them their own room. But at some point, it appeared that these 8 people were in among all of the others. And I'm guessing, I could be wrong, I'm guessing that's why they left, because they did leave. And I smiled at the main one as he left. He did smile back at me, but I could tell that is not what he wanted to do. But I smiled at him specifically as they walked the corner around me and went back. It was a really good feeling, because that was one example, seeing these 8 people on one side of the street and seeing hundreds of joyful, truly, if you look at the little video clip that I did with the pictures, you can see it was a joyful afternoon. But what a dichotomy for those 2 sides. And then there were only, of all of the hundreds, and there were literally hundreds of cars that went by us, because it is a main thoroughfare, and the circus parade with all those people had let out before. And so as they went by, there were just massive car honks and people waving and screaming, and there were only 2 cars where they whipped their thumb. I mean, the ones that I saw where they whipped their middle finger out. It was a really, really good day for America. And it was the first time in a really long time that I felt hope. I mean, I felt some hope, and that's why my sign said what it did about Wisconsin. Because that night too, oh God, you guys, I was so worried. I was so worried that Wisconsin wouldn't come through, that Musk would have bought Wisconsin with those $1 million drawings, and Wisconsin said, nope. So that gave me hope. But yesterday, oh my word, it was a glorious afternoon. And that guy and his crew, I just really, beyond the anger, and I do get so angry, and that's why, I have to be careful when I come up against these people in real life, because I know the personality that goes along with that kind of person, right? So it's this man who put himself in charge. He was in charge of everyone, everything. Same, I don't know if he's got a wife and kids at home. I'm guessing he does. But no doubt it is the same at home. Which is fine if that's how they want to live their lives. But the problem is they want to live it for all of us. I don't know if y'all heard, but our king was caught on a hot mic moment telling somebody, I don't even know who it was, that he wanted his people to act like the North Korean people did for their dictator. Oh my God, you guys. Anyway, so I get really over the top because I was in a foster home for 8 years. They took us to church 3 times a week. And then they took us home and beat and raped us. And so I have this really sensitive aversion to hypocrisy, very well schooled in it, schooled in these kinds of people. And this guy was certainly one of them. And when he said they were there, well, you don't know what's going to happen after dark. So in his mind, there's arrogance, right? He's going to make sure he keeps the peace because, I don't know, these people in walkers might throw them at him or something. Honest to Pete. I don't know if there's really anything else to say. I just wanted to get that across about the Christian thing matters to me. Good Christians, people who follow the teachings of Christ, do not stand there with signs and tell everyone else that they need to repent. They don't do it. I know good, decent Christians. No, they don't do that. That is a twisted version of Christianity. And that's the one they're trying to bring back. And that kind of Christianity, I'm just going to paint it with a broad brush right now, stroke. That kind of Christianity wants you not to question how they discipline their children. And if they beat their children, that is none of your business. Some of the people who are of that mind believe in doing other things to their children that are also none of your business. These are the extremes, right? So when you let a cancer grow, it just keeps growing. Thanks for listening.